Hello everyone, Jules here for WhatCulture.com, and I want you to gird your loins because today's video is sponsored by none other than Model Builder, but more on that later. Who doesn't love a good video game Easter egg? The expansive potential of the video game medium allows developers to include supremely sneaky surprises and references that only the most curious and committed of players will ever discover. But not all Easter eggs are created equal, as sometimes they're simply made to confuse the hell out of players, and maybe even creep us out for added measure. So let's take a look at them. As I'm Jules, this is WhatCulture.com, and these are 10 video game Easter eggs nobody understands. Number 10. The UFO and Talking Hippo, Hitman 3. The Hitman franchise hasn't ever shied away from including surreal and rather deranged Easter eggs. What with Hitman contracts famously allowing players to garrote a bloody ghost on one level. But while this at least made some contextual sense given that you were traipsing around an abandoned wing of a hotel, there's little explaining the appearances of a UFO and a talking hippo in Hitman 3. In the Berlin level, you can find a piece of graffiti on a wall depicting a UFO with the number 1993 next to it. Take a picture of this, eliminate the mission's targets, and then make your way up to the gas station at the top of the hill. Here you can input 1993 on a nearby payphone, which will prompt the UFO to descend from the heavens and pick you up, ending the mission. Beyond the fact that the X-Files started in 1993, it's completely insane that Agent 47 would get abducted by aliens and it never be referenced again. But a somehow even weirder Easter egg is possible in the very same mission, as if you manage to grab the gold idol from the manager's office and place it on a chair out in the marshlands, a hippo will emerge from the dankness and start talking to you. He'll say, among other things, "Don't dance the dance of death, don't trust anyone, you are on your own, you always were, and you always will be." It sounds more like it belongs in a Lars von Trier movie, honestly. Utterly horrifying and totally unexplainable. Number 9. The Person in the Green Jacket, Resident Evil 4. Despite releasing back in 2005, Resident Evil 4 is seemingly the gift that just keeps on giving, as in 2017, a YouTuber by the catchy name of SR212787 discovered an Easter egg that's continued to baffle fans ever since. In Chapter 5-4, close to the end of the game, players can zoom into a distant structure with their sniper scope and see what faintly resembles a person. Now, the YouTuber went further by removing the level's fog and manipulating the game's camera to get closer, revealing that the shape is actually a low-poly 2D sprite of, well, somebody in a green jacket. Though there was early speculation that this person might be a member of the game's development team at Capcom, the face doesn't convincingly match any of the key personnel, and it doesn't help that the image is such low quality as to make the identification difficult. Nobody involved with the game has ever clarified the person's identity, who could very well just be a friend of the dev team or a random person they found on a stock image site. But the thing is, who knows? Number 8. The Cat Shrine, Control. One of the secret achievements from Control's The Foundation DLC, One of Us, requires players to collect 8 Japanese cat figurines that are scattered throughout the game's world. Collecting each cat typically requires completing a puzzle. And then once you've found all 8, a hidden passage will be unlocked. This passage will grant the player access to a bizarre cat shrine containing dozens of the figurines, including a giant one that waves disconcertingly at the player. That's not all though. Players will also be rewarded with a pair of cat ears for which they're able to wear for the rest of the game should they wish to do so. They're purely cosmetic and offer no gameplay advantages at all, and fans are still trying to figure out what the cats have to do with, well, anything else in the game. But much like the rest of Control, it will probably forever be a mystery. Number 7. The Statue of Happiness's Beating Heart, Grand Theft Auto 4. The Grand Theft Auto franchise is jam-packed with insane Easter eggs, the majority of which are at least self-explanatory satire that don't leave too much up to the imagination. And then there's the Statue of Happiness in GTA 4, the Statue of Liberty parody which enterprising players can get inside by using a helicopter to reach an upper platform. Upon entering, players will find a sign that reads, "No hidden content this way," leading to a ladder which will take them to the Statue of Happiness's massive beating heart. For starters, this makes it clear that the statue is somehow alive, which alone might seem like something of a silly gag, but when you consider that the heart is chained to the interior of the statue, it becomes much more disturbing. Is it being imprisoned here by the authorities somehow? Further still, shooting the heart will cause it to spurt blood. It can't be destroyed or stopped from beating with any of the in-game weapons, ensuring it's somehow indestructible. Clearly this was designed to be a total WTF of an Easter egg that kept fans talking forevermore, and almost 15 years on, it most certainly has done that. The heart did briefly reappear in GTA 5's parody movie Capolavoro, but it infuriatingly wasn't lent any further context. So before I begin with this searing slice of infotainment, I just want to say a lot of nice things about today's sponsor, Model Builder. Now, you might have seen last week Scott and Cleary gluing their proverbial fingers together on Moonlit SA's all-new crafting simulator, and I mean, what can I tell you about it that isn't immediately obvious from the unrestrained joy in their little faces? Plus, seriously, this is the most wholesome video we've ever made. Go check it out. In answer to my previous question, well, plenty actually, because you see, Model Builder is all about building and painting a huge array of models, from enormous Gundams to this frankly outrageous car, and even individual figures like this musical little elf whose cheekbone structure I'm definitely envious of. You can take on commissions, enter competitions, and all without ever tipping your paints all over your nice rug. I'm not saying that that's happened, but there is a lot of Nuln oil that I cannot get out. Now, you know me, I'm big into my building and painting of models. I mean, I've got a channel called Live and Let's Dice where I do Warhammer stuff as well, and you know what? I absolutely adore it. The fact that you can build things, put them into different poses, paint them in any color scheme you want, and then it is yours. You have created that. It's like Lego for adults, but better because some of the war games that I play you can shoot stuff with. Fantastic. And Model Builder is trying to make that same experience digital, and you know what? We've had an absolute blast giving it a go here. The game is now available on Steam, and there's even a little link in the description for you if you think you can do better than Scott's attempt over here. You know what? For a first attempt, he's done incredibly well, but if you think you've got more spice on your models, then let us know. In the meantime though, back to the video. Number 6. The robot doing the Macarena, System Shock 2. Now, System Shock 2 doesn't offer up much in the way of Easter eggs, but it sure as hell made one of its very few count by featuring one that caused fans to question the very nature of the game's world. During the third year of duty while posted at the orbital space station, head towards the blue window by the shuttles, and if you look closely, you'll be able to see a protocol droid dancing the Macarena of all things. In addition to being the scariest moment in the entire game, it begs a totally belief system shattering question. Why the hell is the Macarena still remembered in 2114? The Macarena came and went as a craze relatively quickly in the 1980s, when the game was also released, and while it's still remembered today as a nostalgic relic, is it really believable that it will still be rattling around in our descendants' collective consciousness almost 100 years from now? Sure, it's more of a silly gag than anything, but almost 25 years after the game's release, it's become a fascinating cultural artifact, a haunting provocation that the Macarena could well live beyond ourselves, our kids, and even our grandkids. Yikes. Number 5. The Giant Pig, The Evil Within. Now, the evil within doesn't leave players wanting for weirdness, but there's no making sense of this utterly deranged Easter egg. In the first game's 4th chapter, The Patient, players who burn every hanging corpse in the hospice yard will be greeted by a most peculiar sight, a gigantic pig. Now, we're not talking a huge pig that could plausibly exist, but a cartoonishly large bovine creature that is taller than the damn player. If you decide to kill it, you'll receive a hefty load of green gel, though honestly, this giant oinker is such an unexpected curiosity, it'd basically be sacrilege to do so. The sequel offered up its own variation on this Easter egg, where you could encounter a giant crow by stealth killing 3 enemies in the game's 3rd chapter, Resonances. As much as the series is all about the grotesque and the uncanny, these giant animals, well, there's something else altogether. Number 4, that random 9/11 reference, Metro Exodus. In the case of this Metro Exodus Easter egg, it isn't so much that people didn't understand its meaning, but they simply didn't understand why it was in the game at all. In the Caspian 1 Satellite Control Center, players can enter a storage room where there are pigeonhole slots for dated artifacts to be placed, and if you look at the pigeonhole for September 2001, you'll be able to spot a toy airplane. While this is obviously referencing the 9/11 attacks, players have debated the precise intent of its inclusion ever since. Some have pawned it off as a tacky half-joke, or at least in poor taste, while others felt like it was merely acknowledging an event from the real-world history within its own continuity. Either way, the lack of clarity continues to leave fans divided, though thankfully for developers 4A Games, it didn't boil over into a wider controversy and PR headache. Number 3, They Took My Baby, Doom 3. Now, Doom 3 is a terrifying enough game as it is without the need for pant-filling Easter eggs, but the sci-fi horror FPS nevertheless features an unforgettable secret for those who dare to explore the Alpha Labs beyond the mere critical path. In the lab's 4th sector, you might hear the faint, breathy voice of a woman whispering, "Come here." And if you turn around, you'll see an invisible force making bloody footprints on the floor behind you before passing through a door. If you continue to follow the voice and footprints, you'll eventually get frozen in place as the screen briefly turns red, where the voice says, "They took my baby," and a baby can be heard screaming and then laughing. It is absolute nightmare fuel, especially without any additional context in the game to explain the phenomenon. In its spine-tingling ambiguity, this brief moment is somehow scarier than all of the hell-sent creatures that you're forced to battle throughout the campaign. Number 2. The Giant Sandwich. Halo Infinite. The Halo series is well known for featuring one of the most memorable and meaningful Easter eggs in video game history, with Halo 3's eerie ape-like cavemen, creatures that can be discovered in the Sierra 117 level. But the recent Halo Infinite features an altogether more nonsensical and hilarious Easter egg situated on Zeta Halo. To find it, you'll need to go south of the spire and grapple your way through a cave system until you find an oversized monolithic sandwich being worshipped by a group of frozen grunts. Beyond the obvious question of how this sandwich ended up in such a narrow, dark, inaccessible cave, and who made it, we have to wonder why the grunts are worshipping it beyond its sheer uncanny quality. This was surely the result of a 343 employee with too much time on their hands more than anything else, but even so, it's now part of Halo's dense, oddball lore tapestry. Amusingly, Halo's senior community manager expressed surprise on Twitter that the sandwich was discovered and went viral within just 2 days of Infinite's release. And number 1, The Dying Guard, The Legend of Zelda Ocarina of Time. You probably think you've seen everything that The Legend of Zelda Ocarina of Time has to offer, but you might have missed this Easter egg that is still being discovered by fans almost 25 years on. After you get the Ocarina of Time, but before you acquire the Master Sword, a severely wounded Hyrulean soldier will appear in one of Hyrule Castletown's back alleys. Speak to the soldier and he'll briefly discuss Ganondorf's betrayal and Princess Zelda's escape before, air quotes, passing out or most likely dying. If you try to speak to him again, Navi ominously says he's not moving anymore. Though on the surface this might seem like a fairly throwaway Easter egg, albeit one that fans are still shocked to learn about today, there are many who believe that the guard's presence is far more significant than it first seems. A prominent fan theory suggests that the soldier's monologue is inconsistent with the events around him. He details a castle raid conducted by Ganondorf and his men, despite the rest of Hyrule seeming relatively chipper and this guard somehow making it from the castle to an alleyway without anyone noticing. The theory claims that the soldier is actually a leftover part of a scrapped section of the game which would have explicitly shown Ganondorf and his men sacking Hyrule, but it was discarded to streamline Link's story. Whether you buy into the theory or not, fans continue to discuss the relevance, or indeed not, of the dying Hyrulean guard to this very day. And there we go, my friends. Those were 10 video game Easter eggs that nobody understands. I hope that you enjoyed that, and please let me know what you thought about it down in the comments section below. As always, I've been Jules. You can go follow me over on Twitter at RetroJ0, or you can swing by Live and Let's Dice, where I do all of my streaming outside of work, as well as doing all of my Warhammer battle reports. So if you're into that, it'd be great to see you over there. But before I go, I just want to say one thing. I hope you're treating yourself with love and respect, my friends, because you deserve all of the best things in life, and do not let anything or anyone else tell you otherwise, alright? You are all massive ledges, and I want you to go out there and smash it today. I believe in you. As always, I've been Jules. You have been awesome. Never forget that, and I'll speak to you soon. Bye.